Netflix have recently released their docu-series about Flight MH370 that went missing back in March of 2014. Still to this day, there are so many questions about what actually happened to the flight. There's speculation around if anything suspicious happened whilst it was up in the air, and there's also theories surrounding the idea that it could have just been a freak accident. Well, this show structured itself in a way that supported the idea that there could be many different scenarios that are possible, and that there's conflict due to the way in which people have come to their conclusions. So with that, I thought I'd break down and explain why the situation, the delivery of it in the documentary, and the aftermath of the docuseries is so haunting to watch. This show, whilst spending the first 30 minutes of the first episode delving into the disappearance of the aircraft, highlighting the global impact that it had due to the families of the victims being from across the globe, and sharing reactions of the family members, it provided the shocking, heartbreaking nature of what occurred. When it got into its flow towards the end of the first episode, we saw that the 3 individual episodes were going to be focusing on 3 different theories around the disappearance of the plane. The first was based around the pilot being the reason behind why the plane disappeared and that he flew it off course and into the sea. The second was of the taking over of the craft, and that it was done as a distraction method to steer eyes away from a larger matter. And the third theory was focused on the fact that the US were involved and that they had 2 aircrafts intercept the connection with the plane. This was a really interesting way for the show to be structured. What it did a good job at was making all 3 of the scenarios come across as convincing. The second and third were significantly less convincing, but by providing evidence or convincing arguments for each explanation prior to the theory and the reconstruction being shown to us, it made you realize how any of them could have quite literally been possible, amongst many other theories that were out there as well. The fact that the aircraft wreckage has never been found to this day, and the fact that there have only been some small pieces of debris washed up on shore, shows the horrific nature and ordeal that the passengers and crew went through on that horrific night. The 3 theories, whilst being shown to us, still weren't convincing enough to make it feel as though one was definitely the case and a definitive answer, making it apparent how scary that night must have been. It shone a light on the fact that such a horrific thing can happen in the 21st century, and almost 10 years later it can still not be solved. Maybe it never will be. Splitting it into 3 individual episodes was a digestible way for it to be shown to us, allowing it to split the arguments and debates but keep the pacing of fear, heartbreak and sorrow embedded within it. The way the case was handled. One thing that this documentary series shone a light on was the misinformation that was being shared, the late revelations and the lack of answers that were being shared with the public and members of the family. The fact that the searches were being done in locations that were incorrect due to certain information being shared late was something that seemed baffling to witness, as ultimately it proved to provide more questions than answers. There was another moment within the series where we saw that all of the people that were on the plane were declared deceased without a body or a piece of wreckage being found at that point. The reactions from the families in this instance was gut-wrenchingly heartbreaking to watch, and you couldn't begin to imagine the pain that they were going through. Hearing firsthand from them the differences that they had in what they believed the outcome of what happened to the plane showed that due to there being no real concrete evidence and also the way that the information was relayed, it meant that they could often have differentiating opinions. The Reconstructions. At the end of every episode, there was a reconstruction that would take place that would replay the theory in a visual way that would allow us to see what unfolded based on what was said. What was powerful about these reconstructions was that even amongst the drastic differences that occurred throughout all 3 theories, there were stark similarities that you'd notice amongst all of them. The way that it would be told to us over the course of a couple of minutes with the visual aid really brought to life what could have happened and how scary it must have been to have been sitting on the plane when whatever did actually occur actually happened. Outside of the reconstructions, there was certain footage of when people were searching for the wreckage or searching for evidence of the plane actually having crashed into the sea. These were moments that were visually quite petrifying to watch. Seeing the vast open landscape of the ocean, hearing how it was thousands of feet deep, and also hearing how waves would reach heights of 24 meters showed just how dangerous it was out there. I'd also say that by seeing the reconstruction of the plane up in the sky amongst the clouds was something that showed how, like in the ocean, up in the air you're just as exposed as what you are down there, bringing to life how vulnerable of a situation they were all in. The Home for Conspiracies. One thing that I would say that this show sparked and also highlighted was that people love a conspiracy theory. A lack of information causes people to ponder and come up with their own ideas. And due to there not being much information on this missing aircraft, it made people start to question the actual evidence. The flight path which was recorded and debris that was being washed up to shore became something that wasn't credible to a lot of people because they were choosing not to believe it. This is something that I feel most probably tied back into the fact that the information wasn't relayed in the smoothest of ways. But when a plane vanishes overnight, it is a mystery in itself. I feel this docuseries will most likely spark the conversation again, providing theories about what actually happened, and I imagine more conspiracies will be born because of it. Overall review. I thought that this was a very well put together docuseries. It didn't try to make us as the audience believe in a certain theory that was occurring, and it felt as though it just told as much of the case as was possibly known, whilst also being able to provide a spin on it to show us just how divided the perception of what occurred was. The pacing of it felt natural when watching, and it felt like 3 episodes was a good choice as it meant that it was easy to digest and understand all of the information that it wanted us to. It's a haunting documentary to watch because this is something that's still unknown. An aircraft went missing and it was never found, only small parts of debris. The shots of the waves that were around 24 meters high was utterly petrifying to see, and it made you realize that it would have been a losing battle in the fight to survive if stranded in the middle of the ocean. Hearing from the families, the authorities, journalists, adventurers, and people that are still actively looking for answers today and trying to get some sense of closure and justice from what happened, showed that this is going to be something that will forever be looked into. Amongst the conspiracies and the talkability, this was something that actually happened and impacted people. I do hope one day we get to find out what happened to Flight MH370, but judging by the fact that there have been minimal revelations over the almost 10-year period, it doesn't look promising. Netflix have been releasing a lot of docuseries at the moment, and they've all been extremely interesting to watch, so I would suggest giving some of them a viewing. So, there you have it, why the MH370 Netflix show is so haunting. If you want to see more videos such as endings explained, theories and predictions, and character breakdowns, then click on the I button. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. If you'd like to give me a show or movie that you'd like me to review, then head over to my Twitter, @brainpilot_, and tweet me what show or movie you'd like me to review next. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. Did you find this docuseries haunting? Leave a comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.